The GameCube had a ton of hidden gems, whether exclusive or multi-platform games. So many games released that either flew under the radar or they just released at a time where another big title just shadowed over it. Regardless, today I want to go over my personal top 10 hidden gems for the GameCube. Before we start, I just want to remind everyone that these are my personal picks for the topic. Just because a certain game may not be mentioned doesn't mean that they aren't worth mentioning, but rather just what I personally felt hit my list best. Also, I would greatly appreciate it if you can hit that subscribe button down below, as this channel is dedicated to anything and everything Nintendo GameCube related. That being said, let's get this list started. Number 10. Smugglers Run Warzones. Smugglers Run Warzones is a different type of driving game. Not so much about being a racing game, but rather a variety of missions in fairly open environments. Developed by Angel Studios, later renamed as Rockstar San Diego, this was the only Rockstar Games release for the GameCube, but it was a good one. The core concept of the game was to pick up and deliver contraband through various checkpoints in each mission. Most of the missions followed this formula, with a few deviating here and there. Again, it was a different kind of driving game, but it was a really good one nonetheless that not many people really talk about.
Watch it, the army's coming.
Number 9. Speed Kings. Speed Kings was the motorcycle equivalent to Burnout, at least that's what it was aiming for. Developed by Climax, this racing game has you riding your motorcycle as stylish as possible, sliding under objects, popping wheelies, knocking riders off their bikes, all while trying not to get wrecked. It's far from a perfect game, but as far as motorcycle racing games go, this is a really neat one that no one really seems to mention. While its progression system is a bit odd, get past that and you'll find a fun gem over here. Number 8. Tube Slider. Remember those enclosed tube-style racetracks from F-Zero X and GX? What if I told you there was a game based solely on that concept for racing? Tube Slider is a game developed by ND Cube, whom also developed F-Zero Maximum Velocity in the GBA, and more recently Super Mario Party and the Clubhouse games on the Nintendo Switch. This was originally planned to be a new F-Zero installment, but it was later changed to be its own IP. What's here is actually an interesting racing game with a smooth frame rate and solid soundtrack. It's not an award-winning racing game by any means, but it definitely hits the GameCube as a hidden gem, and one that's exclusive to the system. Number 7. Lost Kingdoms. Back before From Software was killing it with their Souls games, Bloodborne, and Sekiro, the developer was behind many other IPs that they were trying out. One was Lost Kingdoms, an exclusive RPG for the GameCube. You play as Katia, the princess of Argwell Kingdom that is being engulfed by a black fog that consumes townspeople where they never return out of it. You will go on a quest to put this to an end, and you'll be doing combat in a very different manner. Instead of using weapons, you have a card-based battle system that's all in real time. You can only use certain cards X amount of times and have to strategize which cards to use and when. It's an interesting premise that definitely screams From Software's unique flair. Easily a hidden gem for the GameCube that's exclusive. Number 6. Evolution Snowboarding. The early 2000s was big with extreme sports games, and man do I miss extreme sports games. When Tony Hawk came out, other developers and publishers tried to capitalize on making skateboarding games. When SSX came out, others tried to jump on the snowboarding wagon. Konami released Evolution Skateboarding as their answer to Tony Hawk, the skateboarding game with Solid Snake as the marketing point. Well, that game was interesting, but we'll cover that in a later episode. Then Evolution Snowboarding released, and critics destroyed it. However, I finally tried this myself last year, and I was very surprised at what was here. Instead of traditional race/trick style extreme sports gameplay, what we got was a snowboarding version of Road Rash, with some truly over-the-top locales and overall story. Shredding down the mountain, beating up gangs and creatures, using chains, bats, swords. This is actually a pretty wild game, and definitely a hidden gem. Number 5, Geist. Geist is an interesting game that easily fits on this list as a hidden gem. Developed by N-Space and published by Nintendo. Nintendo developed the first-person shooter? Okay, in all seriousness, while not a full-blown first-person shooter, it's an FPS more in the way that BioShock is, where it's more about the setting and plot than about explosions everywhere. You play as John Ramey, who's a scientist that's part of a counter-terrorist unit. John is sent on a mission to save his best friend, but things go south pretty quickly. Apparently, there were experiments happening at the facility he was sent to, and an explosion occurs and John is pushed out of his body as an astral projection. It's at this point that John can actually freely roam around and possess anybody or object in the game. The premise is really neat, and one that deserves more attention. Nintendo actually exploring this avenue to publish a game on is really cool and definitely a hidden gem of theirs. Number 4, PN3. PN3 was part of the Capcom 5, a plan for Capcom to bring 5 exclusive games to the GameCube. PN3 was essentially supposed to be something like the somewhat more recent Vanquish, but due to development time, it missed some of that time for more refinements. However, what's here is an interesting premise. You play as Vanessa Z. Schneider, a mercenary hired by a mysterious contract to take down CAMS, a robotic group that's responsible for Vanessa's parents' death. Directed by Shinji Mikami, this action shooter has you going room to room, blowing up everything in your path. While its stiff controls may turn people off, what's here is still an enjoyable title and the only game from the Capcom 5 that actually remained exclusive to the GameCube. It may not be everyone's cup of tea, but I always felt like this was a hidden gem for the system, and one that I replayed countless times. Number 3, iNinja. Okay, so iNinja has to be one of my personal favorites for the platform. Developed by Argonaut, the people behind the original Star Fox and SNES and the Croc series, you take control of Ninja. Yes, that's his name. You accidentally kill your sensei, and his ghost now provides you deep lessons before each level to better yourself as a ninja to take on Emperor Oder. iNinja has a lot going for it. Great level design, catchy music, fun combat, varied mechanics to change up the gameplay a bit, and quirky humor that'll have you chuckling at the dialogue. Also, it really has some nice visuals here too, with a very smooth frame rate. Oh, and fun fact, the game was directed by Don Bluth. Yes, the Don Bluth of Dragon's Lair fame. Number 2, Metal Arms Glitch in the System. Metal Arms Glitch in the System is probably one of the most underappreciated games of the 6th generation. Developed by Swinging Ape Studios, the same studio that was actually working on the StarCraft Ghost game that was cancelled, this third-person action shooter has you in control of Glitch, a droid that's thrusted into a war with General Corrosive and his army. This game has you venturing through tons of levels, using cool weapons, and even driving vehicles in some missions. The story is also well done and has some funny moments for sure. Great soundtrack and tight gameplay all help round out this package to one heck of a good time and quite the gem on the system. Number 1. Second Sight. If there was ever the prime definition of a hidden gem game, Second Sight would be it. Coming off of TimeSplitters 2, developer Free Radical was really trying to do something new, and while what they made was a great game, there's no denying it got little to no publicity. Even though it scored really well with critics for the most part, sales were really low. Yet those who did play it found themselves engrossed in a strong story and some clever gameplay ideas. This third-person action game is still a must-play for the GameCube, and easily what I would consider the system's biggest hidden gem. And there you have it, folks. These were my personal top 10 hidden gems for the GameCube. There are many others out there for sure, but these were the ones I felt fit the bill. What do you guys think? Any games that you remember playing? Any that you missed? Sound off in the comments below, and I'll catch you next time.